Not to brag, but I'm pretty good at sleeping. Normally, it welcomes me like a freshly hired Walmart greeter. But one evening, just before finishing this book, it treated me more like the Costco exit guard who scans your receipt, glances with unprovoked judgment toward your cart, and won't let you go until you acquire the Sharpie swipe of victory. Frustrated, I stared into the darkness, scanning the receipt of my brain for what it was that held me back from passing to the void. Finally, after about 30 restless minutes or so, it hit me. I was anxious about this book. Not in terms of finishing it or meeting deadlines, but the thought of its content becoming public, it started to make me panic. That's interesting, I mused. This is all stuff that you've been preaching at your church for the past 6 years. Plus, in your first book, Unclobber, you took on one of the most volatile topics in Christianity, homosexuality and the Bible. You're not unaccustomed to entering potentially treacherous territory or questioning dearly held beliefs, so why the anxiety now? And the more I sat with this observation, the clearer it came into focus. You see, it's one thing to preach a sermon to 150 people or so who know me and trust me and who can engage in immediate feedback and dialogue if needed. But putting those same thoughts on paper for strangers to read with no potential for dialogue, that's different. The ideas in this book, they represent almost an entire 180-degree shift from the belief system I grew up with and practiced for most of my life. The Colby from a dozen years ago wouldn't put his name to even 5% of the following observations and insights. Anxiety denied me sleep that night because I knew that once this book releases, there would be no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Don't get me wrong, I'm proud of the work I've done and the journey I've traveled, but there's still a vulnerability involved in so publicly recanting on what I used to think, while daring to suggest that I also might have some insights on how to survive and thrive becoming a progressive Christian. Plus, I'm assuming the Colby a dozen years from now will likely cringe at parts of this book. Because faith, as I'll suggest later, implies a dynamic evolving, not a static arriving. And I share this with you simply so that you know that I know that this stuff is vulnerable. Trying to sort through the tangled mess of our spiritual heritages, religious identities, and evolving beliefs, it can get messy. And that's why I sense a survival guide like this, well, it might be of some use.